Violence against children occurs in homes, schools, communities and other places where children should feel safe. Abuse in all its forms is a daily reality for many Nigerian children, and only a fraction ever receive help. According to UNICEF, 6 out of every 10 children experience some form of violence, with 1 of 4 girls and 10% of boys have been victims of sexual violence. Statistics from UNICEF also indicates that no fewer than 5 out of 100 children who reported cases of violence received any form of support. Many questions, yearning for answers, you would say. Now, what is the post-traumatic stress disorder and the victim? How effective are legislations protecting children's rights? What are government and societal efforts in curbing the menace, including the impact of the media, like that of the Nigerian Television Authority's strong advocacy against rape and rapists? These and many more salient issues on child abuse will be addressed on Weekend File tonight on the network service of the NTA. And my guest is Dr. Mark John Nwobiala, former Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, and Co-Chairman, National Child Rights Implementation Committee. I am Olajide Bello. First the news. Wives of top government functionaries and other female officials in Nigeria said they will strive to enhance the image of the country by paying more attention to the public conduct and security. This collective resolution was made at the end of a 3-day seminar on protocol and security convened by Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu in Abuja. State House correspondent Adeni Taiwo has more.
After 2 days of serious engagements, which saw 8 papers delivered by experts in the security and diplomatic space, it was time for participants at this 3-day seminar on protocol and security to take stock. A meet and greet session by the convener of the seminar and Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu set a relaxed tone for the main agenda of the day, which is to reflect on papers presented at the seminar. With the First Lady and former First Ladies Ture Yaradua and Dame Patience Jonathan making input, the session recalled some of the lessons learned during the seminar, particularly those that dwelt on the need for cultural intelligence, security awareness, and proper conduct among participants and other women on the social media.
So people don't know what people are going through, but let's reduce our camera, especially when, some special people are with you. Don't bring out camera.
So you should please step down. Know that you are there to support your husband. Respect his dignity. Protect his image.
And also watch where you are going. Is it party? Is it dinner? What are we doing today?
Counting their gains, some of the participants expressed appreciation to the First Lady for building their capacity as role models and image makers for the country.
It's been very educative. I have learned a couple of things today, and I've even been in office for 4 years.
As we that we're just coming, we really need this, because what we need is how to do things at the right time and to do them most appropriately. Without guidance, we wouldn't have known what we should do.
Highlight of the ceremony is the presentation of certificate of participation. In the State House, Adeni Taiwo, NTA News.
Now let's head straight to the Green Chambers, where the Board of Legislative Standing Committees asked the engine rooms of the Parliament in addressing complaints and grievances, as well as in engendering good governance, has again been brought to the fore. This was during a strategic and capacity-building retreat of House of Representatives Committee on Public Petitions. National Assembly correspondent Joshua Ogunjide takes it from here.
Leading the conversation, a former federal lawmaker and professor of governance and legislative studies, Jerry Ugokwe, explains the role of the Public Petitions Committee in addressing citizens' grievances and complaints. The discussion is aimed at exploring ways of effectively dealing with petitions brought before the Green Chamber for determination as stipulated in Nigeria's constitution.
This committee is that bridge to ensure that citizens can take advantage of the powers of the committee to help them find solutions to their problems.
The committee is the last hope for a common man because, one, you don't need to go to the committee with 1 naira or 2 naira. If you need a lawyer that will stand for you, we have a pro bono lawyers in the committees that can stand for you.
Adding his voice, Chief Commissioner of the Public Complaints Commission, PCC, Abibola Yusuf, examines the role of the PCC vis-a-vis Public Petitions Committee.
For us to raise one thing very pertinent, that any petition before it is valid must be raised on the floor of the House. We begin to engage our constituents and on awareness. Because if you raise a petition, if you complain about anything, it's just for you to send it to your member or anybody and raise it on the floor and it is handled.
We are grateful to Clark for organizing this kind of seminar for us so that they can increase our capacity to be able to carry on our functions effectively.
The takeaway from the retreat is how reports and recommendations of the Parliament on petitions from members of the public can change lives, bring justice, restore hope, as well as establish equity for the common man. In Abuja, Joshua Gujri, NTA News.
Now talking security, effective management of resources by military commanders is vital in the face of global sparse resources. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa reports that this was the focus of the course organized by Nigerian Army Resource Center, Abuja, for security agencies and selected personnel from government ministries and departments.
In view of the sophistication of emerging security threats, armies globally are faced with state and regional security challenges. These evolving transborder threats tend to deflate the resources of nations' security agencies. This critical thinking and adaptive leadership calls for middle and senior cadre personnel of selected organizations organized by the Nigerian Army Resource Center, Abuja, is to develop the capacity of officers to enhance effective use of resources. It also focuses on artificial intelligence, conflict and emotional management for optimal performance in organizations.
The world is evolving. Our military operations are very dynamic. So we need leaders who can think on their standing and who can equally be very flexible to changing environment.
Critical thinking is critical to virtually all segments of our life. You have an issue, you must look at it critically, not about just the information. Even if the information is given to you is genuine, you must think as, what is the environment, what do I need to do?
The 2023 program is the 7th in the series. In Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
The Acting Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, directs all medical practitioners in Nigeria to provide prompt and compassionate treatment to all victims of gunshots and accidents, irrespective of police reports. The IGP's decision comes as a response to a relentless outcry from concerned citizens and the broader community, highlighting the tragic consequences of delays in treating these victims. A statement by the force says the directive aligns with the Compulsory Treatment and Care for Victims of Gunshots Act of 2017, which mandates that all healthcare providers prioritize the immediate care and stabilization of such patients, recognizing the critical importance of timely medical attention in saving lives. Meanwhile, the force says it will collaborate with all relevant ministries, departments and agencies, particularly the Federal Ministry of Health, for the full enforcement of the provisions of the Act. Prior to signing into law the Anti-Torture Act 2017, detention of suspects by law enforcement agencies in Nigeria was noted to be sometimes characterized by the use of torture as a tool for extracting confessional statements from them, leaving such suspects with lasting negative memories. But experts familiar with criminal justice reform say the rehabilitation of such victims of torture cannot be complete without a process of reintegrating them into the society. Olabode Arewa reports.
I can't choke. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. This popular comment said by late American George Floyd, as was being choked to death by some American policemen in Minnesota, USA, was a notorious highlight of the dangers posed by the practice of torturing people who are alleged of committing crimes. In Nigeria, there's a gradual shift from its usage arising from the circumstances surrounding the NSAS events of October 2020. But this forum meeting in Abuja believes that there is still hope for rehabilitating torture victims.
Torture is one of the most serious, crimes that can be committed against a human being. And the reason is that it seeks to dehumanize them by calculated acts of cruelty.
We visit detention centers, custodial and any other detention center across the country. And of course, the essence of it is to ensure dignity of human person and to ensure that the effective rules are followed.
We're going to collaborate with this foundation to be able to do something about the torture, not only for torture, but also to do something so that our correction centers can be somewhere somebody can be staying to be able to correct the person.
Under the Nigerian laws, statements obtained via the use of torture are not admissible in the courts. So experts at the forum advocate strict sanctions for anyone engaging in the practice. In Abuja, Olabodarawa, NTA News.
Now let's head straight to the Red Chambers, where the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, says Nigeria's representation in the Executive Committee of the Interparliamentary Union will open opportunities for the country. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that Senator Akpabio was speaking after his return from Angola, where he attended and was elected into the Executive Committee of the IPU at the 147th session of the Assembly.
The election of Senator Akpabio as a member of the Executive Committee of IPU is coming after 59 years, 1964 being the last time a Nigerian was elected.
A lot of employment opportunities to be created, a lot of offices to be opened, subnational offices to be opened, and a lot of children who wish to be diplomats to have the opportunity of working there. And we also attract funding, some foreign direct investment in the area of training and retraining and capacity building, not just for legislators, but for people who are in different fields. It's quite a lot, actually. The benefits are enormous, so we thank God for it.
Akpabio also spoke on the recent victory of President Tinubu at the Supreme Court.
So we are happy and we thank all Nigerians for their prayers, and particularly we are sure that with what we have done, the serious collaboration and bonding between the two chambers of the National Assembly, we can't go wrong with a president that has been a senator too.
Other members of Nigeria's delegation to the IPU Assembly include the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Okezie-Kalu. Lami Ali, NTA News.
Now to food security. Jigawa State Government has commenced the process of implementing the federal government's African Development Bank supported wheat production program aimed at closing the national wheat production deficit in the country. The program was kick-started by the distribution of 44 tractors by Governor Umar Namadi to the 27 local government areas of the state for immediate commencement of wheat cultivation. Mohammed Muska Askira has details.
Out of the 70,000 hectares of land provided for the cultivation of wheat nationwide, Jigawa is contributing 40,000 hectares with thoroughly trained wheat producers and extension agents on standby to commence the implementation of the program in earnest. The intention of the state government, according to Governor Umar Namadi, is to fully mechanize the production process for maximum yield. The tractors, which were purchased by the Jigawa Agricultural Supply Company JASCO, have been distributed to the 27 local government areas on loan payable in 2 years, with the state government standing as guarantor for the local governments. The tractors, Mala Umar Namadi noted, will render their services to the farmers across the state at a discount of 43% of the total cost of the service rendered.
We are challenged to cultivate 40,000 hectares of wheat, and we have agreed to do that because we have the capacity, we have the manpower, and we have the land.
The main aim is to increase productivity in Jigawa State. His Excellency have come up with a directive that local government should come up with a committee that they are going to make sure these tractors are fully utilized by our local farmers.
These stakeholders say will encourage the farmers as well as reduce their cost of production and consequently the price of the commodity in the market. From Dutse, Muhammad Musa Askira, NTA News.
And on President Tinubu's Supreme Court victory, former director of the National Broadcasting Commission, Dr. Danladi Bako, congratulates President Bola Tinubu on his victory at the Supreme Court, where he was affirmed as the actual winner of the 2023 presidential elections on the platform of the All Progressives Congress. In a statement personally signed by him, Dr. Bako said the victory of the president and the APC was never in doubt. President Bola Tinubu celebrates his longtime ally, friend and confidant, Obarilwan Akiolu of Lagos State on his 80th birthday. A statement by his special advisor, Media and Publicity, Ajuri Ngilale, says President Tinubu described the revered monarch as a fountain of wisdom, knowledge, and a staunch custodian of the rich culture and traditions of Lagos. The president thanked the Eleko of Eko for his unceasing prayers and support, recalling his interventions over the years, even in trying times. He prayed for the health of the revered monarch and many more years on the throne. You're watching Weekend Fire on the network service of the NTA. We go on a short break. Weekend Fire continues shortly. Thanks for being there. Now, there are increasing reported cases of child abuse perpetrated in various forms that infringe on fundamental human rights, undermine development, and with dire consequences. But this social problem is being tackled across strata, especially through enabling laws and concerted efforts. And the question is, how well? Well, Talatu Izuruke finds the answers.
Children are the joy of every family and are expected to enjoy parental and societal care. They also should be raised in a conducive environment that guarantees their protection and human rights. These natural and social rights are, however, often globally challenged by abusive tendencies of caregivers and others alike, as seen in child prostitution, child labor, child soldiers, extending to regressive cultural practices like child marriage and female genital mutilation, to name a few.
It is a call to action for us to have a collective effort, strengthen partnerships and collaboration so that we could really change the situation of the Nigerian child.
Going by a 2017 UNICEF report, a high number of children in this part of the world experience emotional, physical, or sexual abuse. Globally, the prevalence rate of child sexual abuse is put at between 5 to 36%.
A lot of people take advantage of such girls in car parks, car garages, and we're actually we have the laws available, and we're trying to use those laws.
Poverty, ignorance, drug abuse, and divorce are among factors linked to rise in child abuse, often generating traumatic consequences.
There are outright cases of abandonment which the children should not be subject to.
We're trying to do a lot of advocacy on the ability to speak up in Lagos. We're looking to set up a new hotline, for example, that will be easier to memorize.
There are, however, concerted efforts from relevant bodies that include government, religious as well as traditional organizations to adopt holistic approaches in tackling the menace. This is strengthened by government enabling policies like the compulsory basic education for all children, school feeding program, and the Child Rights Act 2003.
This issue of borrowing a baby to go to the street, we all must have to fight it.
The legal frameworks to protect children under the 2015 Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, VAP, has more stringent sections for prosecuting sexual offenders, including those committed against minors. Institutions like the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, and others as part of the corporate social responsibility are also at the forefront in the campaign against rape and rapists.
Meanwhile, with the recent conviction of a Lagos-based medical doctor for child molestation, experts say the culture of silence which has made perpetrators of such heinous crimes to escape justice has been broken. However, stigmatization remains an issue which has to be surmounted to gain more mileage in dealing with this ugly scenario. Joe Popola reports that a synergy of all stakeholders remains a more formidable alliance against rapists.
What began as a silent revolution against rape and child molestation is now gathering momentum following the conviction of Dr. Olufemi Olaleye by Justice Rahman Oshodi of the Lagos State Sexual Offences and Domestic Violence Court. The conviction respondents believe could not have come at a better time, as it will serve as a deterrent to others.
Drastic measures like these will really let people know that there will be consequences. You don't take actions arbitrarily with impunity. So that's what I think that judgment resonated.
If you do the crime, you will do the time. And we're very encouraged by this because we know that this has rekindled faith in the system.
Dealing with stigmatization, analysts say, should be vigorously pursued through public enlightenment, which is being done through the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency to encourage victims and their families to speak up.
Any minor, yes, who is suffering the same trauma can actually go and make report. So I advise them to go without fear, without any form of intimidation. Don't hide it. Don't hide it. Go and report.
Just organizations where people congregate also have roles to play in order to encourage people to come out. But more importantly is that people should just stop so that there will be no reason for people to even become victims.
And so it's just to encourage anybody who may be watching this, who is experiencing one form of violence or the other, to know that it's not their fault, they are not to blame. To break the culture of silence. Be reassured that their identity will remain confidential.
The fight against rape and rapist stakeholders say is a battle of no retreat, no surrender, hence the momentum should be sustained. In Lagos, Joel Popola, NTA News.
To give more insights into the spate of child abuse in Nigeria, Dr. Mark John Nwobiala. He is the co-chairman of National Child Rights Implementation Committee and also a former permanent secretary, Ministry of Education. Dr. Mark John, you're welcome to Week in File.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Doctor, let me take you back a bit, down memory lane, like 4 to 5 years ago. What was the situation like of child abuse in Nigeria?
Well, thank you. I think it's important to put the situation in context. 4 or 5 years ago, when you look at that period and now, you will agree with me that the incidences of child abuse is obviously on the increase. In Nigeria now, we are going through very hard times. There is poverty in the land. People are suffering, and people are in very difficult and dire circumstances. And when this happens, obviously, it has implications for the rights of children. Children are gifts from God, and for us that are child rights advocates, we insist that every action taken should be in the interest of the child. It should be in the interest of the Nigerian child. So comparatively, I believe that a lot has changed and that child abuse in the country, despite all the efforts that are being made, is definitely on the rise.
All right, Dr. John Mark, now that you're the co-chairman, National Child Rights Implementation Committee, what is the story like and what is the impact of your committee and other legislations like the Child Rights Act of 2003 to curb child abuse in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. The National Child Rights Committee was established several years ago. It's a committee that has been in existence for more than 20 years. And one of the great achievements of that committee is that the committee facilitated the production or the promulgation of the Child Rights Act 2003. A lot of work went into the production of the Child Rights Act. And even though at the initial stage, the challenge of getting all the states, to adopt the act was there, there were challenges, both cultural, both out of ignorance and all that. But the National Child Rights Implementation Committee engaged in very vigorous sensitization, very vigorous advocacy. And even though some people will say between 2003 and 2023, it's like 20 years, what we have succeeded in doing, one major achievement of the National Child Rights Implementation Committee is that almost all the states, except one, have adopted the Child Rights Act. And that is a major achievement as far as we can say. Secondly, the National Child Rights Implementation Committee has engaged in vigorous sensitization, not just across the states, but with key stakeholders and strategic partners. We engage in high-level advocacy. We engage in sensitization. We engage in advocacy, and I would say that it has paid off because a lot is happening now. Through the National Child Rights Implementation Committee, we have a very strong children's parliament because we believe that the voices of children must also be heard. One of the things that the National Child Rights Implementation Committee has also done is to ensure that similar committees at state and local government are in place. There are challenges with that, but at least one of the things we've done is linking with the states, collaborating with the states, networking with them to ensure that similar committees at state and local government are in place. And then we are also trying to build their capacities so that we can achieve and ensure that the rights of children are enjoyed by them in the country.
Okay, what are the signs or symptoms of child abuse or neglect, and at what age can a child legally be left home alone?
Now, it's important for us to understand who a child is. A child is any person that is below the 18 years. So when you put it in context and you look at the Nigerian population, you see that a lot of children, a lot of a good segment of the population of Nigeria are children. Now, some of these children face different types of abuses. You have, through your promo and through the explanation, you have focused on the issue of sexual abuse of children, the issue of rape. Apart from rape, there are so many other forms of sexual abuse. Incest is there. Incest is very pervasive now when parents sleep with their children, when parents impregnate their children, when parents ensure that their girl child have children for them. These are practices that are not acceptable to us in Nigeria. And we are working assiduously to ensure that we focus on these issues to see that there are serious mitigations against them. there are other forms of child abuse. When children are trafficked, when children are abducted, when children are engaged in exploitative labor. For us, I was in the Federal Ministry of Education for many years. I also believe that when children are denied the right to education, it is an abuse of their rights. And these are things that as a country we need to focus on and see how we can, solve some of these problems. The issue of the out-of-school children, various numbers are being bandied around. But the truth is that in Nigeria, there are a lot of out-of-school children. And I'm happy that the present administration is addressing that issue for now.
All right, Dr. Mark John, we will still come back to you, but let's quickly go on a commercial break. Weekend Fire returns shortly. Many thanks for being there. I still have with me Dr. Mark John Nwabiala with me in the studio. But before we go further on the discussion, let's take this report from Kaduna still on the subject matter, regarding the child abuse was a topic among advocates, against gender-based violence as the clamor for stiffer punishment and full implementation of extant laws. In this report, Achari Maxwell takes a look at the issue of child abuse in Kaduna and other states in the Northwest.
Issues of child abuse in Kaduna State is that which gives sleepless nights to parents and guardians, as it seems to continue despite efforts by government and critical stakeholders to curb the stem. At the moment, it is declared a state of emergency. Although the VAB law, the Penal Code and the Child Rights Act are in place, but the implementation plan remains a hurdle stakeholders are looking forward to.
The right of the child not only lies on his parent, even where the parent feel that they have forgiven or they have forgot about this, and the government too, they have their own rights, they have their own role to play. So we stick on that our right, and we stick for that our rules to play in protecting life and property.
From Kano State, Sani Basuri reports that from the National Agency for the Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP shows that 50 cases of child abuse were recorded from January to October 2023.
More than 30% of the cases have already been investigated and charged to court. We have successfully prosecuted 17 cases out of the 50 cases that we have received.
We collaborate with such agencies from the point of investigation up to the last point of arraignment to the court, and of course up to the time of court decision in respect of the case.
In Jigawa State, report has it that cases of child abuse is also on the increase.
Number is increasing at alarming rate. We have been sharing a lot of story from women. Even yesterday, sadly, I have seen one case of a girl at the age of 10 years, somebody who even old enough to be her grandfather of 60 years, referred 2 times.
Statistics by the Pediatric Association of Nigeria in Katsina shows that every 6 out of 10 children in Nigeria are victims of child abuse before they get to the age of 18.
The Katsina state government is doing a lot by enforcing existing laws and structures that will serve as deterrent to the violation of girl-child rights.
Children are to be loved, protected and cared for, and not to be abused either physically, mentally or psychologically. Achari Maxwell, NTA News.
Many thanks for that report. Now let's come back to my guest in the studio, Dr. Mark John Nwabiala. Repetitive child abuse comes with PTSD and chronic adrenal stress. Is there a link between PTSD of childhood abuse and chronic psychosomatic illness?
Yes, definitely there is a link. You see, when children suffer different forms of abuses, it could be physical, it could be emotional. The implication is that they undergo a lot of trauma that if not carefully handled, will be a lifelong experience. And if it becomes a lifelong experience, the implication is that the experience lives with the child into adulthood and affects that child, affects the child who has now become an adult in different ways. That's why you have a lot of adults that we call, sometimes we jokingly say there are adult delinquents. There are adults that are maladjusted. There are adults that suffer from psychological deficiencies. And when you have such adults in the society, they also contribute to perpetuating child abuse, and what they felt, they try to impact on children what their various experiences. So there is a link between it. And the trauma that such children experience, if they are not psychologically counseled and guided, becomes a very big problem for them in adulthood.
All right, Dr. John Mark, just before I let you go, considering the scar that will be nurtured by the victim for a lifetime, do you think the punishment for offenders is commensurate with the lifetime damage done to the victim, or there is need for a review?
Well, for me, if let's take the recent case of the doctor that raped a minor in Lagos and was given a life sentence. I think that's okay. But the truth also is that even the Child's Rights Act, which is something that came into force or that was promulgated or passed by the National Assembly in 2003, from the National Child Rights Committee, we believe that we need to start the process of reviewing the act. Apart from that, there are a lot of laws, federal laws, state laws, both civil laws and criminal laws, that I believe that we need to begin to review to make them more stringent, as not just preventing perpetrators, but at least to ensure that when a child's right is violated, there is that kind of restitution, and that the child has, I wouldn't call it a compensation, there is something that is done, that society does for that child as, like a repercussion for others not to continue in that direction. So I believe that the laws there are, some of them are okay, but a lot needs to be changed. We need to review these laws. I also believe that our judges, our magistrates, the people involved with children, the Child Justice Administration, I believe that we need to continuously dialogue with them. We need to continuously ensure that they are trained, that their capacities are enhanced. I also believe that facilities for children, for instance, when you look at in Nigeria, do we have family courts that are functional? Do we have facilities where children that suffer child abuse or this trauma can be kept temporarily, like referral centers? Do we have a link with agencies that are involved in handling the issues of child abuse? A lot of children are trafficked. NAPTIP is there. One of the things that the National Child Rights Committee has done is to pay courtesy call and advocacy calls on some of these organizations. We have come to NTA here. We've gone to Human Rights Commission. We've gone to the police. We have gone to News Agency of Nigeria and so many other organizations. What we want to do is to ensure that Nigerians are properly sensitized and that we come together as a group, as a nation, as a community to fight child abuse. Child abuse is very prevalent in the country. And if nothing is done, it will continue to escalate.
All right, many thanks, Dr. Mark John Mwabiala. He's the co-chairman, National Child Rights Implementation Committee, and also a former permanent secretary, Ministry of Education, for your input on Weekend File.
Thank you very much.
Now, another break beckons. Weekend File continues in a moment. Glad to know you're still there. Now let's join our sport desk for sport update.
Having successfully completed its monthly work and jog exercise for the year, all is now set for the 42nd edition of the Federation of Public Service Games scheduled to hold in Minna, Niger State. Captain of this month's edition, Minister of Sports Development John Ina, says public servants should pay more attention to regular exercise to improve workplace productivity.
I had praised the initiative of the head of the civil service of the Federation to have even started these games at all, and therefore, and praise the fact that these games have been sustained up till now. If there's something I can do to add to the greater sustainability of these games and to get it to new levels and heights, and if that's going to be achieved by showing presence and commitment, that's what I said I'm going to do.
This is about the only thing that brings us together. And almost all those that are gathered here are not civil servants. Politicians are here, businessmen are here, children are here. This underscores the significance.
Well, the involvement of the current Minister of Sports Development, the past minister who was here in this exercise, and also the Office of Head of Civil Service of the Federation tells you about the magnitude of the annual Public Service Games. And this is a great opportunity. Now that is the government and the good people of Niger State that is hosting us, it's a great opportunity for civil servants to identify with the aspirations of the government and the good people of Niger State.
In the Nigerian Premier Football League Match Week 5 Saturday fixtures, Enugu Rangers trashed Kano Pillars 4-1 at the Nnamdi Azikiwe Stadium, Enugu. Bendel Insurance drew 0-0 with Akwa United at the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium, Benin City, while Gombe United beat Plateau United 1-0. Still on football, in the English Premier League, Chelsea lost 0-2 to Brentford at Stamford Bridge. Arsenal trashed Sheffield United 5-0, while Bournemouth beat Burnley 2-1. For Sports Update, Bright Ebuchio, NTA News.
President Bola Tinubu has expressed grief over the passing of Iyalode Alaba Lawson. In a statement by Special Advisor on Media Publicity Ajiri Ngelale, the president described Chief Lawson as an enterprising, courageous, astute, distinguished businesswoman and a leader who epitomized enterprise, brilliance and ingenuity. He described her death as a painful loss. Iyalode Lawson was the former president of the Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NASIMA. And the death has been reported of Hajia Altine Adamu Aliyu Birnin-Kudu, who died after a brief illness in Kano. Aged 80, Hajia Altine left behind 12 children and 35 grandchildren. Among her children are engineer Dao Adamu and a stepson, Honorable Farouk Adamu Aliyu. And up next is the weather forecast.
Welcome. We are having dry continental winds over the northern parts of the country, leaving them dry with sunny skies and haziness to the extreme northern cities. To the south, we are having moist wind coming in from the ocean, reaching the central cities, leaving them with few clouds and sunny spells. However, we have prospect of early morning thunderstorms to parts of Akwa Ibom and Cross River State. And as the day progresses, we expect thunderstorms across parts of Taraba, FCT, Kogi and Benue. Going down south, places like Ondo, Oshun, Imo, Edo, Abia and Anambra, as well as parts of Delta, Bayelsa, Rivers and Cross River State are expected to have their share of thunderstorms. And that's where we conclude the weather forecast. Thank you for watching.
And that's the size of a package and weekend farm. Many thanks for being a part of it. I am Olajide Bello.